Hello everyone, this is part 4 of What If Naruto fused with the Kyuubi, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Team Kurenai, Naruto, and Kage left through the gates, where at least 20 ninjas stood guard. Already, a number of Earth-style users were busy using their jutsus to make a trench surrounding the wall. They nodded to the scout shinobi, before returning to work. Kurenai turned to Kage. So, where do we go? Kage pointed to the northwest. That way. Their camp was there, so they should be coming from that way. But we should be careful. They may have pincer forces to form surprise attacks, and we don't want to run into that. They all nodded, and leapt into the trees. Above them, a messenger hawk wheeled in a thermal to gain altitude, before turning to the southwest, towards Suna. Auto FN, if you don't know what a thermal is, how old are you? It is a pillar of heated air, that rises from the ground. Birds, especially predatory ones, use them to gain altitude, instead of flapping their wings off. Kage led the way, with Kiba behind him. Naruto and Hinata took the middle, with Shino and Kurenai bringing up the rear. Naruto had his hood and face mask were down, so his ears and nose would not be hindered. Hinata glanced at him, watching his ears twitch towards every sound. She thought they were absolutely adorable, and felt another urge to stroke them. She shook her head, and put her mind back on the mission at hand. She didn't notice the smirk that Naruto had, or the knowing smile of her sensei behind her. They traveled all day, stopping briefly to eat lunch. They were moving fast, but not at full speed, so they wouldn't end up running straight into the enemy forces. As night began to fall, they stopped to make camp. Kage looked around the clearing they were in. This is probably our best cover for a while. It's spacious enough for us, but with decent cover. Do any of you sense anything? Shino shook his head. My bug sentries don't feel any enemy chakra. Kiba patted Akamaru's head. We don't smell anyone nearby. Hinata scanned the surrounding area. I don't see anyone, Kage-sama. Naruto shook his head. Nothing but bugs and birds. I don't hear anything. Auto FN, fox ears. Gotta love M. Cute, soft, and practical. Kurenai nodded. All right. Kiba, Kage, try and see what you can find for dinner. Naruto, Hinata, firewood. Shino and I will set up camp. They immediately separated to their various tasks. Kiba looked over at Kage, as they tracked a rabbit. So, you trained Naruto's mom? Yeah. Why do you ask, Kiba-san? Kiba shrugged his shoulders. It's just, the guy grew up with no one, ya know. He knows who they are, but he doesn't really know anything about them. I was just wondering if you were going to tell him about her, since only you really know about her life before Konoha. Kage nodded. Yeah, I know. It's a shame. After Azu fell, I came to the land of fire to find Kushina. By the time I had healed up, and made it here, the Kyuubi had attacked, and left. I learned about Kushina's death, but never about what happened to any children she had. So, I waited in a nearby town, until Naruto stumbled across my little hut, exhausted, and a Hanyu. Why didn't you attack him? From what I've heard, most people would have killed a Hanyu on sight. I won't attack someone who bears me no ill will. When I woke him up, he just told me to kill him. Instead, I talked to him, learned about his past. When I learned of his last name, I knew I could never kill him. So, I started him down the path of getting a new purpose in life. Suddenly, Akamaru leapt forward, flushing 2 rabbits out of a bush. Both Kiba and Kage nailed them with kunais, and began to clean the animals. With Naruto and Hinata were gathering up firewood from a fallen tree near the camp. Hinata looked over at Naruto, admiring the tip of his tail, which was poking out of the bottom of his cloak. Naruto-kun. Yeah, Hinata-chan. What's it like, to be a Hanyu? Naruto sighed, and leaned against the tree trunk. I don't know. On the one hand, it's cool. I mean, I have heightened senses. I'm stronger, faster, more agile. Not to mention the Kitsunegan. That is an added bonus. But, with all of this comes the hatred and prejudice. He looked down. Most people only look skin deep. They see the whisker marks, the tail, the ears, and automatically assume something is horribly wrong with me, or I'm evil. It's not like that in Konoha anymore, but I can still sense it. Most people now are bowing, and being respectful. Several have begged for forgiveness, others have thanked me for my mercy. But I still feel glances of hatred, and disgust, from some people. I don't ever see it, but I can feel it. Hinata came over, and placed a comforting hand on his arm. He looked up and smiled at her. But then, there are people like you, Hinata-chan. People like you, who always try to find the best in a person. He gently pulled her close, causing her to blush. How is it possible? How can someone so kind and caring possible be a mortal, and not an angel from heaven? Hinata blushed even more, and Naruto backed up a little. Sorry, I guess I got carried away. Hinata barely shook her head. It's alright, Naruto-kun. I really appreciated your kind words. Naruto nodded, smiling again. He let go of her, and picked up the pile of wood they had collected. He nodded back to the camp. We should get going. They sat around the campfire, having enjoyed the dinner, which Hinata had prepared with Kage's help. Hinata had blushed at Naruto's praise for the excellent food. Now, she sat near him, her blush having barely faded after being near him for 20 minutes. They were busy talking, sharing stories about what had been going on while Naruto had been away. Naruto was describing this one fight, skipping over the messy details, and sticking to the main story, when Shino stiffened. Kurenai noticed in an instant. Shino, what is it? Some of my Kikai bugs have sensed intruders, Kurenai-sama. 10 enemies, coming from the west. Hinata activated her Byakugan, while Naruto turned his head, his ears straining in the direction Shino had said. After a moment, both of them nodded. Shino-kun is right. They are Iwa shinobi, an advance guard. They are going to scout Konoha, before the main force arrives. Kurenai stood up. We should break camp, and get out of here. Naruto shook his head. It won't do any good. They'll know we were here. Our best bet is to hide nearby, and wipe them out when they come. Kage nodded. I agree. Me and Naruto can take out several of them before they know what is happening. It will also help leave the enemy blind. Kurenai sighed. Fine. Everyone, fall back. They doused the fire, and spread out into the surrounding area. 10 minutes later, 10 Iwa ninjas dropped into the camp. Their leader turned to 2 of them. Search the tents. If anyone is in there, kill them. The rest of you, keep your eyes opened. The 2 ninjas opened the tent flaps, and quickly espied the empty sleeping bags, checking them for enemies. Then they turned around to the leader. Nothing here, Esgar. The 2 ninjas fell with kunais riddling their back. Another 3 fell, one with a shuriken in his tea, the other 2 with kunais in their chests. Naruto dropped down from one tree, a Rasengan already formed in his hand. He drove it into one enemy, sending the ninja's body through several trees. The broken corpse landed almost 100 feet away. As the remaining 4 turned to him, Kiba and Akamaru leapt out, yelling, Fang over Fang. The ninjas jumped aside, only for one to be covered in bugs, and screaming as they sucked away his chakra. Kage immediately came flying out, his hands blurring through hand signs. Water style, Ice Kunai Festival. A ball of water suddenly condensed from the water particles in the air, and over 100 ice-made kunais formed from it. Kage flung his hands forward, and the kunais shot out at them. One Iwa ninja was LD over and over again, while another took 2 in the arm. The third one was caught in a genjutsu, before Kurenai his tea. The leader and the wounded one turned to escape through the only open gap, found themselves facing against Hinata, who stood ready, her Byakugan activated. They both rushed her, the leader pulling out a katana, while the other one began hand signs. Earth style, rock barrage jutsu. Several large rocks fell from the ground, and flew at Hinata. She dodged them easily, but the Iwa ninja wasn't done yet. Rock shrapnel. The rocks exploded, and hundreds of pieces of shrapnel flew back at Hinata. She quickly adopted the stance of her personal jutsu. Protective 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Her hands moved with ease, blocking the shrapnel with chakra beams from her hands. Naruto used this moment to drive his right claw blades through the ninja's back. The leader of the Iwa ninjas, who had jumped back while his ninja had performed his jutsu, was now fighting Kage. He managed to drive the Azu ninja back, long enough to turn and rush Hinata as her jutsu ended. He was on her as her jutsu ended, and she was barely able to dodge the lethal blow. The blade still managed to cut her arm, but it wasn't anything serious. She turned, and struck at him with her juken, but he dodged away, preparing for another strike. Suddenly, Naruto was between the two, his eyes red, and his katana held at the ready. "You're mine now." He rushed forward, his sword arching upwards in a vertical slash. The ninja blocked it, but the force of the impact sent him skidding back. He shook his sword arm, which had numbed slightly. Naruto smirked, as the black crosses on his eyes turned to X's. "Time to S," he said, as the Kitsunegan took effect. He was in his opponent's mind, and began to read it. Suddenly, his face twisted into anger. He screamed in rage, and crushed his opponent's mind into oblivion. As the Iwa shinobi fell, Naruto rushed over to Hinata, and immediately looked at her wound. Everyone was looking at him, wondering what had caused him to react in such a way. "No. No. Please no. Naruto-kun, what is?" Hinata suddenly started swaying, and collapsed into Naruto's arms. Kurenai rushed over, as Naruto lowered her to the ground. "What's going on? What's happened to her?" Naruto slowly began to cry. The ninja's sword. It was coated in poison. Auto FN, cliché, I know. But I need it, so another cliché can happen, so Naruto and Hinata can really be together. Kurenai immediately began to dig through Hinata's medical pouch for antidotes, but Naruto stopped her. "It won't work. The poison is fast acting. She'll be gone in a matter of minutes." Kurenai shook her head. "There must be something we can do. Are you going to just let her S?" Naruto looked at her in rage, his eyes changing back into the Kitsunegan. "Do you think I want that?" He looked at her, before turning into his mindscape. He rushed to the Kyuubi's cage. "Where are you, you damn fox? Silence mortal, I'm sleeping." "Well, wake up. I need you." The fox's eyes opened. "Why should I help you? And yes, I know it is for your wrench. Don't you dare call Hinata-chan that. Now help me save her." "Why?" "Because I'll K myself if you don't. And that means you cease to exist." Kyuubi let out a howl of rage, before glaring down at Naruto. "Fine. But the only way is for my chakra to be in her. And in its state, it will merge with her, and do to her what it did to us." Naruto started at this, then looked down at the ground. Then he looked up. "Be ready." He returned to reality, where the others were looking at him. He sighed. Kyuubi says he can save Hinata-chan, at the cost of her being Hanyu for the rest of her life. The others looked at each other, then Kiba nodded. "It doesn't matter to me. I'll stand by her, just like I do for you." Kurenai nodded. "This will save her life." Shino just nodded. Naruto looked down at Hinata, whose face was becoming paler than normal. He gently lowered his head, and whispered, "I'm sorry." He placed a hand on the wound, and began to channel his and Kyuubi's combined chakra. It formed around his hand, and flowed into the wound, disappearing beneath the skin. After a few moments, Hinata's eyes shot open, and she turned on her side, vomiting onto the ground. Her whole body shook, and she suddenly grasped her stomach, whimpering and crying in pain. Naruto immediately pulled her into his lap, holding her tight. He whispered comforting words into her ears, even as she screamed in pain, and tears fell down his face. There was a L sound, as a lavender-furred tail erupted from the seat of her pants. Her ears grew similar-colored fur, as they morphed into fox ears. Just as suddenly, she stopped shaking, and fell against Naruto, panting. He stroked her, crying as he continually whispered, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." She seemed to snuggle against him, and her eyes opened for one brief moment. "Naruto-kun. Am I S?" she whispered. "No. No. You're alive." "Good," she said, her eyes closing, as she fell unconscious. Naruto just held her close. "What will you think when you wake up? I've condemned you to the same life I have had. Can you ever forgive me?" Kurenai sighed. "Well, I'm glad that's over with. We'll rest here for a while, then head out to find the enemy force." Naruto looked up, his eyes now red from crying. There's no need. I read his mind. They are 2 days behind them. We have 2 days till they arrive at Konoha. He immediately turned back to Hinata, holding her, and gently wiping her mouth clean. Kage nodded. I suggest we rest for a few hours, then fall back to Konoha. One of us should move ahead to give them this information. Also, they can take our prisoner. He pointed to the Iwa shinobi, who Shino had drained. He was lying there, his body paralyzed by poison from the bugs. Kurenai nodded, and turned to Kiba. You're the fastest. Get the prisoner, and get back to Konoha. Inform them of the enemy's distance, and tell them about Hinata's current state. Tsunade may need to do a checkup, to make sure there is nothing wrong. Kiba nodded, and grabbed the Iwa ninja. He tied him up, and secured him to Akamaru's back. Then the two of them disappeared into the trees, heading back home. Kurenai turned to Naruto, who was picking Hinata up, bridal style. We'll rest for a few hours, then get out of here. Naruto nodded, and carried Hinata to one of the tents. He placed her in one of the ruined sleeping bags, and covered her with a blanket. He watched her ears twitch, and her now calm face, as she slept. He lowered his head, tears beginning to fall again from his eyes. Why? Why must I hurt everyone I care about? Why can't anyone be safe around me? He sat like that for the next 4 hours, until Kurenai came into the tent. She looked at Hinata, and whispered, "Is she okay?" Naruto nodded. She'll be okay. Her body isn't accustomed to Kyuubi's chakra, like mine was, so the process was more exhausting. The poison didn't help either. But she survived, and just needs time to rest. Kurenai turned to him. How about you? Naruto just stared at Hinata, almost blankly. I don't know. I'm glad she is alive, but what kind of life have I condemned her to? I told her about the hate and prejudice I still get. And now, she will receive it too. I wish there had been another way. But there wasn't. What will she think of me, for turning her into this? Kurenai sat next to him. I think you are overreacting. I really think she will not blame you, especially since you saved her life. Just trust her. Naruto looked at her, and nodded. Kurenai sighed. We need to get going. Can you carry Hinata? Of course. Naruto carried Hinata outside of the tent, then performed his trademark jutsu. 20 clones popped up, and immediately began to take the camp apart. When they finished, they dissipated, as everyone picked up the packs. Naruto carried Hinata's, as well as his own, and carried her bridal style. She snuggled against him, smiling the whole time. Naruto felt some of his fears melt away, as he looked at her happy face. They moved out, Naruto moving fast, but carefully, while the others formed a defensive circle around him. Tsunade stood by the gate, with Kiba waiting by her. The trenches were almost complete, and other ninjas had begun readying the wall. Large ballistae were being placed at intervals, and rows of bolts covered in large explosive tags were being lined up. Other ninjas were reinforcing the wall along its weak points. All in all, their defenses should be ready. When Kiba had returned, Tsunade had sighed in relief. The enemy was still far enough away, that they should be ready for them. Not only that, but Gaara, the Kazekage of Suna, had promised reinforcements, and would lead them personally. As long as they could hold, she felt that they would win this war. However, her relief was mixed with concern, as Kiba had also informed her of Hinata's condition. She wasn't concerned for her well-being, but for her treatment in the village. She hoped that Hinata wouldn't face the same problems as Naruto had. Even if she did though, she knew Hinata would have plenty of people standing next to her. Her thoughts were interrupted by a shout from a sentry on the wall. The rest of Team Kurenai, along with Naruto and Kage appeared. Hinata was still unconscious, and in Naruto's arms. Tsunade rushed over to them. How is she? Still asleep. But she has stirred a few times. I think she may wake up soon. Naruto said softly. Tsunade immediately performed a diagnostic jutsu, and sighed in relief when she was done. Beyond the change in her DNA, there is nothing wrong. Her body has adapted well to the new features. She should be fine. Naruto nodded. I'm glad to hear that. Do I need to take her to the hospital? Tsunade shook her head. Just take her home, and rest. I'll call on you if I need you. Naruto gave her a sad smile, and headed off, doing his best to hide Hinata's new characteristics from view. Kurenai came over to Tsunade. He fears she will hate him for what happened. The poor boy has been quiet and upset the whole way home. Tsunade sighed. With everything that has happened, I'm not surprised. It may take him a while to fully trust anyone, after what has happened to him. But Hinata is one of the few people who can help him. At the Namika's apartment, Naruto laid Hinata down on the couch, as he placed his and her packs aside. He hung his cloak on a coat rack, and had finished removing his weapons, when he heard a soft sigh behind him. He turned, and rushed over to Hinata, in time to see her eyes open. She looked around, then smiled as she saw him. Naruto-kun, where are we? Back home. The mission was a success. Hinata nodded, then frowned as she felt something weird. It felt like there was something extra, but she couldn't figure out what. She reached out, and when her hands made contact with the extra thing, her eyes widened. She looked up at Naruto. What happened? Naruto sighed, as he kneeled next to her. I had to save you life. But, in order to do so, I had to make you a Hanyu. Hinata's eyes widened even more, and her mouth opened in surprise. What? Hinata's eyes widened even more, and her mouth opened in surprise. What? Naruto nodded softly, as she sat up. The wound you had, from the katana. It was poisoned, a fast-acting poison. There wasn't anything we could do. I asked Kyuubi for help, and he told me that the only way was to channel our combined chakra into you, so it would eject the poison from you. But it fused with your DNA, and I'm so sorry. Naruto turned away. I didn't want this for you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Hinata-chan. Suddenly a pair of arms encircled him, and he felt a tail wrap around his waist. He turned to see Hinata looking up at him, smiling through a slight blush. Naruto-kun, you don't have to be sorry. You saved me, again. Naruto-kun, I can't be angry at you for saving my life. Besides, I really like this. Naruto's eyes widened, as she continued. I mean, this will help me be stronger, so I can one day save your life. And this tail, she flipped it around, is so cute, and useful. Her smile disappeared, and she stared right into his eyes. And me being a Hanyu means I can understand, and help you with your burden. Naruto-kun, I'm thankful that you have done this. Please, don't think I'm angry. Naruto looked into those eyes, and then he hugged her back, causing a small eep. Even as he did, he felt that feeling again, even stronger than before. He slowly realized that the woman he held in his arms, this wonderful angel, she cared for him on a level he had never before known and experienced. He slowly nodded to himself, and pulled back from her. She looked at him questioningly. Hinata-chan, you are so perfect. You can always make me feel better, and more than I really am. I don't think I could ever really live a life without you. Hinata smiled at him, as he smiled back. Slowly, their smiles faded, as they stared at each other. Their faces slowly moved closer together, their eyes beginning to close. Their lips were almost touching, when there was a loud knocking on the door, followed by the voice of a pink-haired kunoichi. Naruto, Hinata, open up. They both snapped back to reality, and blushed, as they moved away from each other. Naruto cleared his tea. I should get that. He stood up, his mind racing. Did I just try to kiss Hinata-chan? Am I really in love with her? He opened the door, and Sakura gave him a smile. Sorry, can I come in? Naruto nodded, and moved back from the door. Sakura entered, then ran squealing to Hinata. She immediately reached out, and touched one of Hinata's ears. So they are real. They're so cute, and fluffy. I love them. She rubbed them, until she saw the looks both Naruto and Hinata gave her. She pulled her hand back. Sorry. Anyways, I came to check on you guys, because I heard about what had happened to Hinata. So, everything all right? What's different? Hinata shrugged. Honestly, I don't think much has changed. All my senses were increased, and my strength, agility, and speed are better. Naruto thought for a moment. What about your Byakugan? Did it get affected? Hinata activated it, then she and Sakura both gasped. Naruto came around, and his mouth opened in amazement. The usual veins were there. But the eyes were different. They were a soft red, with gray crosses where the pupils would be. She deactivated it, and her eyes returned to their normal lavender, without pupils. She looked at both of them. Were my eyes different? Naruto nodded. I don't know how, But, you have the Kitsunegan. Did you still have the Byakugan? Hinata nodded. I could see the chakra networks, and everything, like normal. But, I could also see both of your thoughts. Nothing serious, but, whatever you were thinking at the time. Naruto stared at her. Hinata, I think me and you have just made a new Kekai Genkai. This is big. We need to tell Bar-chan about this. Tsunade watched the preparations for war. Even now, barricades were being thrown up along the sidewalks and roads. The last of the villages were being escorted, along with the newest genin students. The older, experienced ones had been drafted for combat, and even now, they were busy with the others. Tsunade sighed. At least they only had 2 enemies to deal with. Recent reports had confirmed a rumor that Orochimaru had been betrayed and killed by Sasuke Uchiha. With him gone, Oto was falling into chaos. As for Am, they were always a weak power, and very few of their ninjas had been killed by Naruto. They had voiced some complaints, but nothing more. Tsunade was knocked from her thinking by Shizune opening the door. Tsunade-sama, Naruto and Hinata are here to see you. Naruto and Hinata entered, followed by Sakura. Hey Bar-chan, Naruto said happily. Tsunade growled, but stopped. So, you seem happy. I take it Hinata wasn't too angry about being a Hanyu. Hinata giggled, as her tail flicked around, briefly brushing against Naruto's. They both blushed before Naruto shook his head, and became mostly serious. Nei-chan, me and Hinata discovered something. Sakura came over, to check on us, and she asked Hinata what was different. Well, it made me wonder if her Byakugan was affected, so I asked her. It turns out that Hinata got the Kitsunegan from her transformation, and it mixed with her Byakugan. She has a new Kekai Genkai. As Tsunade looked at Hinata in amazement, she activated her new eyes. They turned to the soft red, with gray crosses. Tsunade looked at them in amazement, until Hinata blushed and looked away. Naruto looked at her. You read her mind. By accident. I didn't read anything about the village. Tsunade suddenly looked scared. Not about him. Hinata just looked away from her, as a certain white-haired toad sage came in. Hinata took one look at him, then gagged, before turning away. Naruto and Sakura looked at the red-faced medic Sannin, and the pervy Sannin, and both went, EWWW. Tsunade snapped out of it, desperate to change the subject. Anyways, this is interesting. Are you sure it is a Kekai Genkai? Naruto nodded. It mixed with her Byakugan, so she should be able to pass it on to her kids. Tsunade smiled. Well, this is wonderful. What is it called? Hinata looked down for a moment, thinking. Then she looked up. Dokashogun. Reading eyes. Tsunade nodded. So, what can you tell me about it? Hinata gathered her thoughts, then began. It's not much difference from the Kitsune or Byakugan. My Byakugan isn't any different, except now. I can read the unguarded thoughts of a person, even without looking into their eyes. I guess the rest of the Kitsunegan is normal, as I couldn't read all of your mind, until I looked into your eyes. Tsunade jotted down what Hinata told her, and nodded. Well, this is good. With this, Hinata, you could start your own clan. What do you think? Hinata shook her head. No, if I'm going to start a clan, it will be as the wife of the clan head. Hopefully, it will be with a certain someone. She began to blush, while Naruto's ears lowered and flicked in embarrassment. Tsunade nodded. Jiraiya smiled, before pulling out his notebook. Well, this is all good for my next book. Now, Hinata, perhaps you could open that coat, and let me touch those ears, and tail, so I can know what they feel like. A sudden intent came off the blonde Hanyu, and the medic Sannin. Jiraiya placed the notebook back in his pocket, and placed his hands up in surrender. Fine. So, anyways, I have a report. The defenses are almost complete, and we've gathered as many ninjas together as we can. We still need to reinforce the gate, but it shouldn't take more than an hour. Tsunade nodded. Fine. Now get moving, before I'm forced to put you in the hospital. That is, if Naruto doesn't do that. Jiraiya took one look at Naruto, who was grinding his teeth together, growling out, Ero Sannin. The toad sage nodded, and leapt out the window. Naruto took in a deep breath, and calmed down. Right. So, you need anything else, Bar-chan? He barely ducked under the punch Tsunade threw at him, and chuckled. Tsunade began to smirk. I really like that other name. Call me that, or I'll hit you into next week, Ototo. Naruto nodded, and rubbed the back of his head. You got it. Well, if that's it, we're going to get going. Hinata-chan, do you want to go get some lunch with me? Hinata blushed, but happily nodded. Sakura and Tsunade watched as the two of them left. Sakura sighed happily. They really look good together, don't they? They do. I just hope the Barker realizes his feelings for her. I think he does love her, but he doesn't know what love is. That's partly my fault. Tsunade sighed. It's all in the past now. All we can do is look to the future, and hope for the best. Let's just make sure they have a future to have. Naruto and Hinata had packed a lunch, and ate it in the park. They happily talked about almost anything, and had strolled through the park. Almost unconsciously, their hands had entwined as they walked. They stayed in the park, enjoying the short time they had, before they had to fight for their village. As the sun began to set, Naruto took her up to the top of the Hokage's monument. They sat down, watching the sun set over the village. Naruto leaned against a tree, with Hinata sitting in front of him. He stroked one of her ears, his tail wrapped around her waist. She gently stroked it, causing him to slightly purr. She giggled at the sound, until he stroked her tail, getting the same noise from her. They both laughed, happy at being so close with each other. Naruto sighed as he looked back over the village. It's so peaceful. You wouldn't think we were only days, if not hours from a battle for this village. Hinata nodded. It's so unbelievable. I feel so weird. I should be anxious, worried about the fight to come. But right now, I'm just so happy, and calm. She looked up at him. We'll win, won't we? Naruto gave her his foxy grin. Of course we will. No matter what, we will win this fight. He sobered for a moment, and was silent for a moment. Then he spoke again. Hinata-chan. Yes, Naruto-kun. I don't know what will happen during the battle. I know we will both fight our best. But, in case something happens to one of us, I want you to know something. As Hinata looked back up at him again, he drew in a breath. Hinata-chan. I didn't understand what love is. But, even though we've been together for only a few days, I think I'm beginning to understand. Love is finding someone who makes you happy. Someone who you will do anything for. I would gladly move the heavens and the earth, if you asked me to. Hinata-chan. I think that I do love you. Hinata's eyes watered, as she smiled happily. She gently placed a hand on Naruto's cheek. Naruto-kun. I love you too. I've loved you for so long. To hear you say that, you don't know how long I have waited for that. Naruto smiled at her. You won't have to wait any longer. Then he slowly lowered his head, as she raised hers. Their lips gently pressed together, and stayed that way for several moments. They broke apart, their eyes closed. They both slowly opened their eyes, and smiled. Hinata turned around, so she was facing Naruto. That was great. Naruto nodded. It was. But I think it can be even better. He reached out, and pulled her closer. She was blushing at how close they were. She placed her arms around his while he placed one hand around her waist. The other one came up, behind her head. He gently pulled her closer, and they kissed again. But this time, the kiss was more passionate. He held her closer, so there was more contact. Slowly, his hand on her waist moved along her back, gently rubbing it. Her arms moved to his back, gripping him, as if she was afraid to lose him if she let go. After several minutes, they both pulled back, panting. Naruto smiled at the beautiful Hanyu in his arms. I love you, Hinata-hime. And are you, Naruto-kun? Alto FN, anyone know what Prince might be? I think it might be good to know. They just sat there, enjoying the closeness between them. They watched the last of the sun's rays disappear, and the stars began to shine. Naruto sighed, somewhat unhappily. We should get home. We're going to need plenty of rest, for the days to come. Hinata nodded, and moved off of Naruto as he began to stand up. Before she could stand, Naruto held out a hand, and helped her to her feet. Then he suddenly picked her up, earning a startled gasp, followed by a happy giggle. Naruto smiled at the blushing girl in his arms. That blush is so cute. I think it is one of the things I love about you. Then he turned, and began a steady descent down the front of the mountain, landing on protruding rocks with ease, until he was level with the roofs of the buildings. With a mighty push, he launched himself onto a roof. In his arms, Hinata smiled in exhilaration, as she gripped him tightly around the N. Naruto kept his pace, and they were back at their home in a matter of minutes. Naruto lowered her to her feet, and opened the door. Almost immediately, he sensed something wrong. He could smell several ninjas present in the darkened apartment, and hear their soft breathing. Beside him, Hinata stiffened, as she sensed him as well. She activated her new power, her Dokashogun. She growled in anger. I can see you all. You may as well come out. The lights came on, revealing several members of the Hyuga main family. Hiashi stood in front of them, his lips curling in disgust. So, the rumors were true. You were corrupted into a half-demon spawn. But still, you have been given a great gift from it, haven't you? His eyes barely glanced at Hinata's, before looking towards Naruto. I thank you, Demon SC. Now, I will have her back, so we can use her to breed a much more powerful Byakugan, and establish our clan's superiority forever. Naruto adopted a ready stance. That's the same thinking as the Uchihas. Look where it got them. They relied on the Sharingan for their superiority, and were MD by the one who knew the truth. A true shinobi's strength lies not in his abilities, but in his ability to persevere, no matter what. Leave my home now, and I won't report this to Tsunade-sama. Hiyashi's face contorted in anger. Silence. I have had enough of you. You should have been ked the day you were sealed, and I will see to it that it is done. He charged Naruto, his fist striking out to nail Naruto's heart in a Juken strike. But as he was about to strike Naruto, his arm was caught, while another hand struck the chakra points along his arm. It became weak, and when released, flopped to his side. He looked at amazement, as Hinata settled back into her Juken stance. The other members immediately rushed forward, only to be met by Naruto, who had unsheathed his claws, and katana. I suggest that unless you all want to you back it up, and don't move. His eyes had turned over to the Kitsunegan, and he watched all of them, as they slowly backed up. Hinata watched her father, as he just stood there, dumbfounded. Hiyashi-san, we don't have time for this. The village needs every ninja to fight the coming battle. Petty disputes like this could lead to all of us getting ked, or enslaved. Now I will say this one more time. Leave now, or else. Naruto watched the Hyuga leader, waiting for his response. Eventually, the Hyuga snapped out of his trance and turned to the others. We're leaving. Now. He turned back to Naruto. We're not done yet. Then he followed the others through the door. Naruto sighed, as he closed it. He turned to Hinata, surprised to see her still standing there, almost like she was in shock. Naruto came over to her. Hinata-chan. You okay? Slowly, she turned to him. Did I just stand up to my father? When Naruto nodded, she stood there for a moment. Then her eyes rolled back into her head, and she began to fall over. Naruto immediately grabbed her as she fell. Naruto sighed. Guess it was a major shock to her. But it still is good. It means she's gaining confidence. Naruto gently picked her up, and carried her to her bedroom. He laid her out on her bed, removed her sandals, then removed her jacket. He nearly had a nosebleed, at the sight of the black kunoichi tank top, and fishnet shirt on underneath. Holy crap. She's hot. She's got a great body. Wait a minute. Bad. No pervy thoughts. Damn you, Ero-sanin. The Kyuubi laughed at him. Fool. You should mount her now, and claim her as your own. The mental intent Naruto gave off actually caused the Kyuubi to back up. Naruto slowly ground out what he was thinking. If you ever suggest that again, you will find yourself living in a cage 100 sizes too small for you. Do I make myself clear? Kyuubi grumbled, and went back to sleep. Naruto sighed, as he pulled the blankets over Hinata, and kissed her on the lips. Good night, my beautiful vixen. Pleasant dreams. Naruto himself went to his parents' room, and fell on the bed, sighing. As always, he had a few minutes where he wondered if he should sleep in this bed. But eventually, his exhaustion won out, and he fell asleep as well. The last of the defenses were complete, and just in time. Tsunade had ordered all her ninjas behind the wall, and she herself stood on the wall, ready to lead those under her command into battle. Now, the 250 Konoha shinobi stood ready, awaiting the enemy. The wind blew by, ruffling hair and clothing. Several ninjas stood ready at their ballistas, ready to fire at a moment's notice. Naruto and Hinata stood together. With the revelation of the Dokashogun, Tsunade had given the two of them special orders. Flashback. I have a covert mission for the two of you. Hinata, with your new ability, I want you to try and find the leaders of this force. When you do, I want you to tell Naruto. Naruto, once you have the targets, I want you to disable, or K them. If the enemy loses their leaders, they will be that much more disorganized, and easier to hold off. Understand? The two Hanyu nodded, and Tsunade smiled at them. Be careful. I don't want anything happening to you two out there. All right. Flashback ends. Now, Hinata had her dojutsu on, and was scanning for the enemy. Every other person with tracking skills was doing the same. Eventually a shout went up from a ninja stationed near an aberrame. Got them. They are 2 miles out, and closing fast. They're moving through the treetops. Tsunade turned, and nodded to Ibiki. He raised a hand, and the ballista crews pulled back on the siege equipment, raising the elevation. They began to yank back on the turn wheels, drawing the cords back. When they were ready, Ibiki dropped his hand. With large whooshes, the bolts were launched, arching up into the air. They glinted in the sunlight, before plummeting towards the ground, their tags igniting. Suddenly, there were large explosions, and screams of pain and surprise. Tsunade nodded grimly. So, it has begun. She turned to her shinobi. Remember for what you fight for. Our hopes, our dreams, and our people. Konoha. The cry went up along the wall, as the combined forces of Kumo and Iwa broke through the trees. They immediately raced towards the wall, unleashing kunais with exploding tags, and various jutsus. The attacks hit the wall, causing it to shudder, but hold firm. A second wave of explosive bolts, along with a shower of kunais, shurikens, and offensive jutsus rained down, causing more death and destruction. The first wave of enemies rushed the wall, only for the first few ranks to scream as they disappeared into the disguised spear trenches. The next ranks leapt over them, and began to rush up the wall. They were met by a barrage of small weapons fire. Auto FN, easiest way to describe it. Not guns, but kunai and shurikens. Those that weren't killed or too badly wounded returned the favor. Most were blocked, but a few hit home, and some of the Konoha shinobi fell from the wall. The few Kumo and Iwa ninja to make it to the wall were instantly set upon. Kunais clashed, and limbs struck B, as the battle for the wall began. Naruto's katana easily sheared through one man's arm. He ducked under his wounded adversary, and finished him with a reverse S. Hinata struck a man's chakra points with several strikes, knocking him off the wall, and into the open space behind him. She immediately turned, horrified at what she had done, but determined to keep going. She moved to watch Naruto's back, while her eyes continued to scan the thoughts rushing through the people around her, and the enemies on the ground. A Konoha ninja immediately spat fire from his mouth, roasting several enemies rushing up the wall. Their burning beef fell back, knocking over others behind them. Suddenly a barrage of stones from the ground L into one of the ballistae, causing the bolt on it to explode, killed several ninjas of both sides nearby. All around there were people yelling, fighting, falling, some to stand back up, others to never rise again. To some of the younger ninjas, it was too much. They keeled over, throwing up, while others screamed in fear. One boy, only 13, found a Kumo ninja in front of him, raising a sword to K him. Suddenly, 3 blades erupted through his chest. The Kumo ninja fell, revealing the cloaked and hooded Naruto Namikaze, the Fox Knight. The genin looked at him in awe. Get anyone who's hurt, and get him down to the ground. Go. Naruto moved off, as the genin slowly nodded, and began helping a badly wounded Chunin off the wall. Naruto turned to see Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji surrounded by 5 enemies. Shikamaru caught 3 of them in his shadow possession jutsu, with Choji quickly dispatching them. Ino caught another with a mind destruction jutsu, and he started attacking his nearby allies. But the 5th came up behind her, and struck her in the shoulder with a kunai. As Ino fell to the ground, the ninja suddenly stopped what he was doing, and keeled over, with no wound. Naruto stood there, his eyes in the second form of the Kitsunegan. He nodded to Ino, who was being helped up, and turned to see Hinata still behind him. He scanned the ranks of enemies below on the ground. There were still many of them, And even worse, they were beginning to bring up some siege equipment of their own. Naruto sighed, as he thought, this is going to be a long day. Then he sheathed his katana, and performed his modified ram sign, shouting, Mass Shadow Clone Jutsu. Dozens of shadow clones popped up, and immediately joined the fray. Naruto drew his sword, and leapt back into the fight. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.